record on this. Excellent. And here's Carrie. All right. Welcome to my late Ask Me Anything Live. My emails did not go out last week. And I was like, what happened? I had like 2 people show up and I realized emails did not get sent. So I just did a redo and I've got a new puppy. So I'm upstairs here. I'll show you guys real quick. Upstairs. Can you see that little mess maker right there? I know. So cute. So she can only handle short times in the crate, and then we end up with a lot of squealing happening. So starting to do some of my calls upstairs, which is super fun. So welcome to you all. And okay, we are recording. It is April 25th. So if you're watching the recordings, April 25th, this is our April Ask Me Anything Live. How can I help you folks today? If you've got questions, you're welcome to just go live, or you can pop them in the chat. And if people join later, I always, in fact, let me open the chat so that I see that in case anybody does pop a question in there. Okay, there we go. Anybody with a question? How can I help? And here we go. Here's another Carrie in the waiting room. Welcome to Carrie. All righty. And if not, we can just talk business, which I love doing, just finding out what people are up to. Yeah, Diana.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, thank you. This is my first time joining you, so I think this is great. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, you're so welcome. I love all the books behind you. They're so colorful and pretty.
Thank you. A lot of fashion books.
I love it. So what do you do?
I am a product development consultant. So I've worked in the fashion industry my whole professional career. And now I help small businesses or entrepreneurs that come up with this brilliant idea, how to get their product manufactured and how to get it made.
Nice. Ooh, that's so cool what you do. I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. You meet people that love pets and all of a sudden invent a toy or a tool, or moms that have babies and all of a sudden realize there's a need for something and they create it and they want to know how to make it and bring it to the market. So that's how I help them.
Ooh, I love it. It's so important what you do, right? Because there's so much to navigate there for people that are just figuring that out.
Yes. So and I enjoy it. So I get to meet a lot of great people. But
awesome.
I do have like 2 questions.
Yeah. How can I help you?
My first one is, how or what terminology can I use to be basically say, we're consulting, I'm giving you advice, but if you proceed with your endeavor, is at your financial risk. Like, I'm not assuming any of that. I'm helping you discover how you can get your product made, how to negotiate a price, what should you pay for it, what should you wholesale it or retailer at. But it's really up to you if you end up investing $10,000 or $20,000 making that product. So how do I word that? I guess disclaimer, I'm giving you advice. It's up to you if you take or if you act on it.
Right. No, absolutely. And that's very standard, regardless of the area of consulting, right? That's language that most consultants are going to want in a standard client consulting agreement, right? So you should have a standard consulting services agreement in place. And it's going to specifically have a provision that says you are responsible for all of your own, business, financial, strategic decisions. I'm here to give you advice, to give you support, to help you understand your options, right? And you can put this in layman's terms. You can put it in legalese if you want somebody like me to help you create that. But it's being very clear that you are there for support and strategy and consultation, but that they're ultimately responsible for all of their business decisions. So, and then you would also have what's called a limitation of liability, right? So you'd have a clause that says that your liability is limited to a certain amount. Generally for consultants, you see it from, a range of ways that it can happen, limited to the amount that they pay you for the consulting services. So if they did, and that's not to say that you would be liable, but that if they sued you and you were found liable for some, malfeasance or something, which is very unlikely, but that, your liability would be capped. That's the goal with a limitation of liability clause. So there are a number of ways that those can be drafted, but generally you're just saying, look, my liability will be limited. And, but, you know, in conjunction with another clause that says you're responsible for all of your own business decisions, right? You're responsible for any decisions you make, including during or following our consulting relationship, right? Yeah, so really important, good question, and super, super common standard in the consulting industry that you would have language like that in place.
Okay. And then the second question, if I may, unless you have another question.
No, totally. Please do. And then we'll see. It looks like Carrie has her hand up and hopefully some other people have questions, but let's get to your other question.
Okay. It's regarding how to, I know you can't prevent it when someone buys your product or buys your downloadables, especially because you're giving them PDFs and charts and all this, for them not to steal it or share it, or steal it. I mean it in the sense that they are going to maybe repurpose it and sell it, or use what I'm teaching them or the tools I'm providing for them to go on and do something else with it.
Really important question. So I work with a ton of, I mean, every single one of my clients, right, is creating tons of online content, digital downloads, courses, live workshops, live trainings, you know, direct client service stuff, you know, so a ton of information trades hands in every one of those ways that they exchange value in their business. And there are ways that you can protect your information. So when it comes to your, because most of what you're talking about, digital downloads, courses, PDFs, right, probably live somewhere on your website or like a membership course or an online learning platform attached to your website. So your, let's call it your virtual home base, right? I have what's called the website protection package, which is designed to protect all of that. There are three functions. If you're in the online space, there's three functions that you need to protect. One is publishing information, right? So you're publishing information that's available to the general public. They can hit your site, probably enter into a freebie or a download, right? So they give you their email and then suddenly they've got a little bit of your intellectual property sitting in their inbox, right? So that's publishing information. And it happens in a variety of ways. Maybe you do articles, maybe you're awesome at video tutorials. There's all sorts of ways people publish information. You need your website terms and conditions in place for that, that have key provisions that protect your intellectual property. And also, just like we talked about with the consulting agreement, limit your liability, right? Because there are things that you can tell people and teach people, which I do as well online, and you cannot ultimately control how they use it, whether they use it and accidentally harm themselves or harm their own business or harm somebody else. And so this is where your website terms and conditions, a lot of people don't slow down to think about this, but they're one of the most important pieces of your online legal real estate. And that protects your publishing function. Now, the second function is data collection, right? Your information collection, which we all should be doing a ton of in the online space. I mean, not overdoing it, but we should be building our databases. We should be building out our list, like money is in that list. And so to the extent that we're utilizing our websites, our amazing intellectual property to help build that list, these protections are what kind of I call them the gatekeepers around your business in the online space. So that second function of collecting data, the piece that protects that is your privacy policy, right? So, and that's required by law. It doesn't really matter where you are in the world, you have to have that. And if you have people opting in from around the world, like let's say you've got people from the EU, you need a GDPR compliant privacy policy, right? Even as a small business. And then the third function is selling information or selling services based on your proprietary information. And so that's where you have terms of purchase in place, separate and different from website terms and conditions, which protect the stuff that's just generally accessible to anybody. Terms of purchase are what apply to the sale and to the intellectual property that's changing hands as part of that sale. So let's say you have a course that somebody pays for, right? And a lot of people come to me when they're about ready to launch a new website or launch a new course or program because they're afraid of letting people into all this amazing content that they've created, right? Sure. Your terms of purchase are the gatekeepers to that content that you sell, the courses, the services, whatever it is that your online digital funnels are leading people to. So with your terms of purchase, that's also when it's done right for the businesses that I support, it's a quite beefy document. You've got to address intellectual property. You have to address liability and specific disclaimers that pertain to the information and the work that you're doing within that sale, right? So it's together. And then for certain people, if you're business to business, like if you're B2B or you're talking to people about earnings, income, I support a lot of people that also support small businesses or support people in the digital space. You could use an earnings and income disclaimer, which is also required by law if you're in the right type of business. And talking at all about increasing earnings or sales or income, you have to have that. And then certain people, if you're in the health space or another unique space, you might have to have certain health disclaimers or other disclaimers that are really relevant to your work. But together, those things make up the website protection package, which is generally where I start with most clients that come my way, as we're getting all of their online real estate protected so that they have all the gatekeepers, which means if somebody does take one of those bad actions, takes your IP, borrows that language that you drafted that is on your homepage or on your course page, or steals the title of your signature program or course, right? All of these ways that people get exposed to your information and then use it in the wrong way, unfortunately. And it happens quite a bit. You can go back and say, look, these terms apply when you visited my site or when you transacted this purchase. And it allows you a way to enforce the rules that it will give you more leverage than if you don't have anything on your site and you haven't protected your business in that way. So that's step one. Now, does that mean that people will still not do bad behaviors? No, sometimes they do. Sometimes we do end up having to go farther than the initial protective work and, have to do a takedown or a cease and desist or contact their website host or whatever, right? So sometimes it does take more effort, but if you've built your foundation and you've got the core pieces in place, sometimes a reach out is enough. Like, hey, these terms were in place. This is what you agreed to when you bought my course. You need to take this down, right? Yeah, great question.
So much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. All right, I see that Carrie has a hand up. Welcome, Carrie. And I think welcome to Sarah or whoever came in last. Carrie, if you're available, are you ready for a question?
Hi, yes, I am. Sorry that I don't have my video on. I'm joining from my car and I had a specific question and want to be safe. So I'm just doing the audio.
No worries. And I'm just following my puppy around because I don't want her flooding us. I know.
Cute.
I know. The unfortunate news is we have raccoons that moved in under our front porch, and raccoons are so naughty. We love them. They're darling. And we are big animal lovers here, but I don't really want my puppy to tangle with a raccoon. So I'm having to watch her carefully when I send her
definitely
outside.
Not. That would not be safe.
No, I know. This is the mama bear in me, but I don't want to hurt raccoons, and I'm definitely not calling a wildlife person on them, but I sprayed a whole bunch of essential oils through this little hole on the side. Oh, they're so mad out there this morning. They are so mad. It's stinky, like the bad oils, oregano, thyme, marjoram, like all the super strong ones. Anyways, fingers crossed that they are moving out once it gets dark today. There's my story for the day, but I'm also keeping eyeballs on puppies, so forgive me.
Oh, no worries. We got to do what we have to do for sure. Good luck with that.
Thank you. I just wanted you to know, because I'm normally not like eyeballs off to the side. This is why I'm eyeballs off to the side. I'm still listening. I'm a mom and I've got some skills, but how can I help you, Carrie?
So first of all, I just wanted to say the consulting services agreement. I wanted to let you know that you drafted, that you made for me.
This Carrie, excellent.
Yes,
okay,
yes,
there's
that
so many
Carrie.
Carries in the world. I just see your first name. So welcome back, Carrie.
Oh yeah, that's true. I do have my first name on there only, but I wanted to let you know that the large client that I told you about, they signed it. They didn't even make any changes. I was shocked. So anyway, yes, I was so happy.
Oh my God, that makes my lawyering heart very happy, because what it means, and I'll tell you this, it's rare, but it does happen. When I receive an agreement that I will review on behalf of a client, this has happened twice recently for a particular client that does a lot of business. And I've been like, great, No changes. I don't see problems with this agreement. That's the first time in 2.5 years that I've reviewed, and I've reviewed, I don't know, probably 60 or 80 agreements for him, that's happened. But it means it's well drafted, it's reasonable. There's nothing that I can take a beef with, right? On his behalf. And what it means is it's fairly drafted. So what it means for you is that somebody on the other side looked at it and thought this is fairly drafted. So that makes me happy.
Yes, I knew it would. So I wanted to tell you that. But the question I have is, so they've signed this agreement. I had a statement of work, which was addendum A.
Yes.
And the agreement I just put in for the rest of this year because I
Yep.
do regular different projects for them. And so we just signed it for the year. And so my question is, when I do a new scope of work, do I title that addendum B? Or how do I handle that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So generally what you're going to do, it can still be addendum A, but just with a new date, right? So
okay.
because you're layering them on, but in that instance, as it pertains to that date, there's only that addendum.
Okay. So they can all
Okay.
be addendum A.
It can, and just make sure, and depending on what it looks like at the top, because the way that you could clarify that is if there's not already, because there's definitely going to be a date probably at the bottom where they sign, make sure that there's also a date that shows up at the top of the addendum. That way, when you're flipping through addendums, you can see like, oh, this one is dated this, you can quickly distinguish.
Okay. Yes. And mine does have the date right at the top. So that's great.
Perfect.
Is it a problem if I did one addendum B?
It's not a problem. And you're just saying like, if you just keep adding on, you just change it to addendum B, addendum C, addendum D, like each time you do a new project for them.
Well, before I had this call, I did have to send one out last week. And so I wasn't sure what to do. And so I did just label it addendum
it's not
B.
a problem. No, it's not a problem. The thing that you'll want to make clear, and as so long as they're clear on it, is there's not like a missing addendum A for that round of signatures.
Okay, got it. But I can go back and do the addendum A next time and just have the different date.
That's
Okay,
right.
great. Okay, that's all I had. And
All right.
I might stay on and listen a little bit longer, but I might need to
worries.
jump off so I can
Okay.
focus on my driving.
No
Okay,
problem.
thank you so much, Heather.
You're welcome. Good to see you, Carrie.
You too. Bye-bye.
All righty. Okay, and Araceli is here. Let's welcome Araceli. All right. Well, she's connecting. Anybody else have a question for me that I can help you with? Sarah. Yes. Hi, Sarah. And welcome, Araceli. I saw you just popped in. Sarah, what's your question?
Couldn't find the raise hand button. I'm like,
Oh,
where is
sorry
it?
about that.
That's okay. My question is for a group. If you're in a community and you're not a business and it's a volunteer group, we have a tagline that was basically copied and stolen from us from another women's group. And we're like, okay, what do we do about this? Because we're not a business yet. We're coming into a year of deciding, is this going to work in our community? And so, not sure what to do with that.
So, okay. What is the purpose of the community? Can I ask you that?
Yep. We provide networking opportunities for ladies in our county to come to an event to network.
Got it. So it's a networking group, not like a co-working community. Okay.
Oh.
So yeah, here's the trick is that with a tagline that's protected by trademark, right? So you would need a trademark registration to be able to claim exclusive ownership over that. Now you can sometimes get what are called common law trademark rights, but there do have to be damages. So if you're not a business, it's really hard to allege damages because how do you measure the monetary impact of that? Right. So this is where, and sometimes things like this happen as a way to really provide an impetus to analyze where are we at? Do we need to shift gears? Is it time for us to incorporate, start a business, register the tagline? Right. So, so that'd be my next question, because if they're using it, I'm guessing that they just started to use it and that they also don't have a registration, right? So if you were to incorporate, let's pretend that you do start a business around this endeavor. And when you file a trademark registration, they're going to ask you what is the first date of use in commerce. So you're going to backdate to whenever you started using that phrase in commerce, right? And so presumably you're first in line because you were using it ahead of this other group. But it's really important to get a filing in that says that puts you in line officially, so that if anybody else searches that tagline, they see that you're in line. They see that your application is pending. So yeah,
Okay.
that's where it's at. It's otherwise very hard. You can attempt to enforce common law trademark rights, but it is more challenging, and it depends on the use, and they're often restricted by geography, right? So and some people don't always respond to those types of threats, depending on how sophisticated they are, if they have legal counsel.
Okay, that's really helpful. And then just to add on to that, when we do make that decision, what's the best business type? Is it LLC if it's a community business?
Depends.
Like,
Well, yeah, and it depends how it's run, right? So whose organization is it? Whose business is it? Who's making the money or monetizing it, right?
we're not making any money right now. Like, it just goes back into the event space where we use for the next event. So it's all
Mhm.
volunteer based.
Yeah, so it could, I mean, it could be a nonprofit. I've got a friend who does nonprofit law. If you want to explore that type of a business formation based on a community project or some, beneficial outcome. So yeah, it really just depends, because if it's a business, there does need to be some business purpose, and certainly plenty of businesses are event-based businesses where
Mhm.
that's a business model. You could turn that into a business. You could monetize that, right? But then it depends, like, who are the founders, who organizes it, who finances it, who's responsible for the legal side of that business, right? There's a lot of considerations. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Is that something that can be split up between multiple people? Like if there's a group of us, would that be answered by this person who's the nonprofit person?
If you went the nonprofit route, yes, because she could certainly help you with the nonprofits. Regarding like splitting up, are you talking about just splitting the roles for a business, or actually splitting up the business?
There's several ladies involved in this,
Mhm.
and we have a president, vice president, and
Mhm.
like that, just a structure so we're not like all stepping on each other's toes.
Yeah.
But because we're all putting in so much work,
Mhm.
not one person can be like the sole owner.
Totally.
We would
Yeah.
want to split it.
So an LLC, you can have multiple members. You could have,
Okay,
I think up to 100, I think, members in an LLC.
holy cow, okay.
Yeah, there's quite a few. So that is one way to share ownership in an LLC model. You might check out, let me see if I can find the page for you. Slicing pie LLC model. There is a model out there. I think it's called Slicing Pie. Go to slicingpie.com. Yeah, I'd spend some time on their website. That's going to be a good model for you. They've got a handbook, especially for people that are coming together or jointly sharing a bunch of the work in starting something. You might check out that model, because that's one way that you can form an LLC with a shared ownership model from the start, and go in being pretty clear on how you're sharing that ownership and the responsibility.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a great resource. And welcome to Charisse. All right, who else has a question? It looks like I see a hand up. Deborah, is that you? Oh, and also Valerie. Okay, let's go Deborah and then Valerie.
Super, thank you. Let me take down that hand. Heather, I am just about, I need to change one color, but as you can tell from that statement, I'm a little deep in right now. I am creating a visual logo around the title of my proprietary method for business strategy support.
Okay.
I know that visual logo should have the trademark symbol on it. And I'm emerging with this, so I don't have a history of use in commerce yet so I'm not at the level of registering the trademark.
But let's be clear, with a trademark, there's two bases for filing. There's current use or intend to use, right? Intent to use. So it's a 1A or 1B basis. You can intend to use something and not be using it yet and still get a registration. Okay, so that's, yes, that is a great option for people that are like, look, I really know, and just excuse me while I look for my doggy to make sure she's still in the yard, that I really know I want a registration. I'm just not using it yet. You can still protect yourself in that way.
Okay, and it's better to start the registration process ASAP rather than to use the TM signal while you are developing that.
Yeah, great question. Not necessarily. And there's Maggie, so I can calm down. So let's talk about when it might be appropriate to use the TM symbol and just go ahead and launch versus not, right? So one is always budgetary. Do you have the budget to file for a trademark registration, right? So I charge for single class, single filing, it's $14.97. Compared to the legal marketplace, that's extraordinarily reasonable. That's a 12 to 18 month process. We help with all of the development of the classes, the description of the classes, the filing, and then we shuttle that through the process. If you're multiple classes, like if you've got a lot going on in your business, you might have to register across multiple classes and then the fee structure bumps up slightly. But some people just need to launch, and the TM symbol, you can use that. You can put the TM symbol after a word, a phrase, a business name, right? Signature course or program name, or a logo. These things are all protectable by trademark. But you do have to intend to protect it, right? So people often will be like, oh, well, I mean, I think I will, I'm not sure. Can I go ahead and put the TM symbol up? Like, no, you have to be on the path to really laying claim to that and saying it's mine, and I'm going to take the steps to register it. But you can do that kind of in the interim while you're launching or getting a product out there or something, and then you're allocating the budget to proceed to next steps. Now, if it's something where you're like, look, I'm really afraid somebody could rip this off in a hurry or duplicate it and try to imitate my work. Yeah, is it safest to go ahead and file? Sure. It's always better to be the first in line as far as the USPTO is concerned, rather than having to fight somebody else's filing if they rip it off, right? So, but you know, the reality again is what eyeballs are watching. What is the sophistication level of those eyeballs? I know it's a weird question, but really people can take quite a long time to get around to protecting these kinds of things. And so, you know, somebody would have to be really on it to duplicate it, go ahead and proceed to filing and beat you to it if you're getting yourself ready to get in line.
Okay. May I ask another layer?
Yes.
I don't know whether I'm going down or up at this point.
Please do.
The responses that you've already given tell me that I'm on the right track with launching, moving forward, using the TM symbol, and that I need to plan for that registration step.
Yep.
Now, I have a standalone logo.
Mm-hmm.
I also have the unique word that is the name of my process, and I have the URL.com that goes with that word. So when I am, forgive me, I cannot talk without my hands.
It's all right. I get it. I love hands.
So say I am developing a design that would be used for letterhead identification on a lead magnet, and for my website, where the logo could stand alone, and I know that it needs the TM symbol. The logo may be used with the, oh wait, you look.
No, I'm listening. I'm listening. I just see my doggy sprinting to the front, so I don't want her running around and tangling with those raccoons. Maggie,
No, I don't blame you.
Come, girl. We'll get her back inside. Come here, sit. So the quick, I'm not sure, and I'll let you have your question, but we can talk about word marks and logo marks, right? Because you can register both. Come here. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe little paws. Yeah. So is your question around whether to trademark it as a whole with the logo and the word, or to get separate registrations?
Well, I wondered initially whether I should use the trademark symbol for the word in addition to the logo. And then what about the tagline? I loved the question previously where a tagline had been appropriated by another group. The tagline is just kind of, you know, what goes with the word.
Oh yeah, so let's talk about this because this is a good discussion. The ways that you think about, first of all, how to prioritize what you would like to register is like, start with, ask yourself the question, what is most critical or paramount to my brand, right? Is it the visual logo? Is it the words? Do I want to have exclusive use over the right to say these words? And a reverse question would be, what would I be devastated if somebody else got ownership over these, or use these words, or use this logo, right? So if somebody's to the point of like, yes, they'd be devastated, you might need to pursue multiple registrations. For most small businesses, the place that I start is the word mark. If that's what's most important, is to be able to lay claim to either the business name, the signature course or offering name, right? Because, and excuse me while I do my little spiel about trademarks versus copyrights, because you can also get a copyright registration to protect a visual design, which includes a logo, right? So you can copyright a logo. You can copyright, just like you can copyright images and other designs. So trademarks, you can actually protect, logos, you can actually protect with both trademarks and copyrights. But it kind of depends on how you're using that. Maggie, she's getting so rambunctious, and we're just tearing apart our bed, which is a fun game that we've been doing lately. Come here. We got an end open. I need like an industrial sewing machine to be able to get it back closed, but here. These little sharp, they're like little little shark teeth. Just gonna put her in her crate for now because she's 5 feet from mommy. She'll be fine. So when you think about your separate assets, right? The title, or let's call it the word mark, the logo, and then the tagline, there's a couple ways that you can do it. So I recently got marks for a client who has a word mark. It's designed a specific way, but we got it for the word mark. And he uses that in conjunction with a logo. And we got both. We got both the word mark of the brand name and the brand name in conjunction with the logo. And again, the question is, how paramount to your business is the tagline? Sorry, I'm saying logo, I mean tagline, right? The business name with the tagline. So you just want to ask yourself, how paramount is that tagline? Do you use it all the time in conjunction with your, whatever is the primary word mark? Is it just occasional? Is it used only in conjunction with specific offerings or trainings, right? So there's a variety of ways that you can look at it to decide where do you place priority. But generally speaking, when you're talking about trademarks and copyrights, think of your brand as a mountain. Top of the mountain, what's visible to the marketplace, right, are the snow-capped peaks. That's what you protect with trademark registrations. This is your business name, signature course, or product name, right? It's a name or a phrase, short phrase, or a logo. This is what's protectable with a trademark. Now, the rest of the mountain, the rest of your brand is the body of your work, your trainings, right? Your newsletters, your articles that you publish. Maybe you created a workbook. Maybe you're an author and you wrote a regular book. Maybe you publish a video training series, or you have a course, like, and from the perspective of, the mountain, the rest of that mountain is the body of your work. That's protectable by copyright. All the ways that you disseminate your frameworks, your systems, your teachings, your methodologies, right? All of that stuff is protectable by copyright. And so, do you have to copyright everything? My clients are massive information publishers. They create so much information in the world, right? And that's good. These are all information entrepreneurs. But when you think about what it is that is essential to your brand, start with protecting that. And even on the copyright side, because copyrights are less expensive, you can file them yourself, but you need to be able to strategically identify what are your core assets, right? And so I would start by asking you, because once you've been doing your work for a while, you start to see your own rhythms. You start to see the things that come up with every client that you train on, that your own system and methodology for the way that you teach that. And the question to ask yourself is, what is the best presentation of that concept? Because copyright does not protect the idea, protects your unique expression of the idea, right? So you need to ask yourself, what is the best way for you to express that idea? Is it in writing? Is it video format? Is it audio format? Is it an article? Is it an article series? Like, what is the format that captures the core pieces of your work? Start there and protect those. Okay, done with my little lecture, but that's how you can think about copyright and trademarks. That help?
Very, very helpful. Even though I have the logo and I have the word, I am still experimenting with the visual presentation of the word.
Okay.
So
if you're still
I'm
experimenting, yeah, this is a really important point. If you're still experimenting with a visual presentation of the words, of the logo, etc., you're not ready for a design mark. You need a word mark. And I would just let your brand settle into the preferred use, and that just takes some time. Start with the word mark. If you're committed to the word and you know that's not going to change, or the phrase, you know that's not going to change, start there and get the word mark protected, and then let the visual side of it just evolve, right?
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. And I really appreciate your guidance to separate in that pyramid. Where does my tagline fall? You're right. You know, that the tagline comes into that part that isn't so seen. It comes into how is my service delivered. And the tagline identifies that, but not specifically.
Yeah.
So I'm much more concerned about the word, the name itself, and because I have a surprising amount of time invested in it at this point, because I didn't realize that what I wanted done, you can't do on Fiverr. You can't have somebody put together your, by the way, a bit of a digression, but not quite a rabbit trail. For anybody else who's listening and maybe in this process, I learned the other day that in the fine print of Fiverr, it tells you that you cannot upload your own components and ask someone to put them together skillfully in the design that you want. I didn't know that.
Fiverr is going to be protecting itself against infringement actions where people are uploading work that's not their own. So
yeah, and so I realized, oh, well, okay, I do know what I want, and I guess I better figure out how to produce it, because obviously where I was going to get help can't do that.
Well, and if you created the original work, like you created the concept, you could have somebody evolve that or express that concept, like hire them professionally, right? Versus giving them a vector or a ping file to work from. Like you could show them that and say, please, this is what I want to create. And then they create it from scratch. But yeah, you might be better working off Fiverr.
Yeah. And you know, for where I am right now, the logo has come far enough along that I'm comfortable with using it. Could it be better? Of course it could. Nearly everything could always be better.
Yeah. And based on that, I would say start with the word mark and then later prioritize protection of the logo once you've got it exactly the way that you want it.
Love that. Thank you so much. And thanks for letting me expand while you went deeper for everybody. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have you here. All right. Any other questions? Charisse, I see you've got a hand up. If you're there.
Yeah.
and-
Hey, Heather, can you hear me?
I can. Hi, Charisse.
Hi. Give me 1 second. Let me
No worries.
kind of move my body. I put my question in the chat so I wouldn't forget
Okay.
it, but
Oh,
it's
let's see. Let
extremely
me
long.
scroll
So
down. Here we go. All
it's
right. I
extremely
want to.
long, so I can also say it verbally.
Yep, I want to start a paid membership for my sci-fi audience and my podcast co-host.
Hi, people.
Sort of wants to participate. I want our roles and potential pay to be spelled out. So I thought I have created a simple Google Doc or contract of what we agreed to. Is that a legal document? Do I need an attorney or something? Great question. Charisse, I can't remember. Did you go through my JV and affiliate training?
No, I did not.
That would be for anybody doing any kind of partnership, whether it's let's call it informal or right, because the ranges of partnership are informal, where you're just not really documenting that much, or you're documenting very minimally, to a more formal version, which is going to be a contractual JV. Yours could fit in that bucket as well if you guys got really clear about what the arrangement was, to like a legal joint venture where you're actually creating a whole new business entity in which to do the joint venture, right? So the middle ground, the contractual JV, is where I live for most of my clients that are getting into the joint venture type of space, where they're truly co-creating something, not just, you know, somebody doing a mailing for you. Some people call that a JV, but that's really affiliate work, right? So where I would start, honestly, is with my joint venture agreement. It comes with a template and then a preparation guide, all the questions and the work that you need to do before even working on putting down the specifics of the collaboration. And then for anybody that buys that template, I gift them the training that I did. I spent a Saturday morning doing about 3 hours of training on joint ventures and affiliate arrangements, how to do them well, how to do them safely, how to prep for them, etc. And I would just gift you that training if you decided that guide and the template is a fit. You can just find those in my individual template store. I'm happy to send you the link, but I tell people, like, if you're going to be doing any kind of JV, whether it's, you know, informal to formal, even a legal JV, my preparation guide is going to help you cover all the right topics, have all the right discussions before you ever enter into that joint venture.
Okay.
So the value's in the guide, even if you don't do the contract, but it's a really beefy contract. It covers not only the logistics of what the joint venture is about and how you are each contributing, but then there's a whole section at the back that covers intellectual property. What happens to the intellectual property we create as joint ventures, like partners essentially in this joint venture? Who owns what? How do we separate it out if things fall apart, right? It covers all of the details that get really sticky that people often don't think about on the front end because they're not anticipating all the problems that actually tend to come up.
Okay. Okay. I'll go get my hands on that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'll watch for that. And if I see the purchase come through, I'll just shoot you the training so that you can go through the training on your own time whenever you can.
Yeah, I'll purchase it today when I'm done with my kiddos over here.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is
You're
really helpful.
welcome.
I was like so stressing out about it. So thank you.
Well, and it's, you know, the stressing out part is not fun, but many people truthfully don't stress out enough before they collaborate. I say that jokingly because what happens is then they get super stressed out on the back end because they did everything wrong. And now they have to untangle things and they're fighting. And I'm not saying that's where you're going. If you get this guide and you do the important work beforehand to have the right conversations, you just make better decisions around, will this work? Are we a fit to work together? Have we fleshed out all of the important details? And then it makes it much more likely that you will be successful, right? If you do go forward. So that's my little plug for that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome. Good to see you, Charisse.
Good to see you too. Bye.
Bye. All right. What other questions do we have? Such great questions today. Yeah, Valerie.
Hi.
Hello.
I believe I know a friend of yours,
Oh, who do you know?
Connie Whitman,
Yes. Oh, I love Connie. I'm such a fan. How do you know Connie?
my sales coach.
Oh, awesome. She's fabulous.
I love her.
Yes, good. Well, tell her hi. If you get to connect
I
with her,
will.
tell her hi and that I miss her.
Well, I talk to her way too much. I love her. I love her so much. She's one of my,
We all need a Connie in our life. She's just got
yeah,
the
she's one of my
best-
closest friends. So she's so sweet.
she's fabulous. Well, how can I help you, Valerie?
Um, so I was talking to her and I had a question and she says to me, you have to go talk to Heather.
Awesome.
So I said, okay. I am looking to launch a new service. I'm a career coach, a resume writer, and
Excellent.
we've been so busy with everyone looking for work.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we keep getting asked is, do we offer a service where we are applying for people? In other words, like doing the actual job application. I said,
Got it.
that's not a service yet, but
And my question, let's just pause there. Is that a service that you can even do?
we could.
Right? You can apply like on behalf, like basically it's like ghost writing an application. Is that what it is?
I mean, technically we could, but we would have to take their login information.
Got it. So they're applying through like a platform somewhere where they have to get in and enter information. Because I'm just wondering legally, just from a legal perspective, whether or not technically you can do that because you would be-
That was one question I had. And then
Mhm.
if we could, what kind of terms and conditions we would need in place.
So I'm gonna just say that's a no for me without looking at the term, but you could certainly go research the terms and conditions of any site. I'm just gonna say that when somebody's accepting applications, any business, whether it's through a platform or directly that's accepting applications, they're gonna expect that people are doing the work and filling it out on their own behalf,
That's
right?
what I was kind of thinking
And
too.
so I think that's a clear no, because you
Okay.
run into the risk of, fraudulent misrepresentation or any number of things that could be
Yeah.
alleged, even if you're authorized as an agent on behalf of the applicant. I don't know that by law and, really just from an ethical standpoint, whether I would recommend that at all.
That's what I
think-
was wondering too.
Yeah, I think the process is coaching your clients, educating your clients, giving
Yep.
them all the advanced support so that they can then have a successful process themselves.
Sometimes what I've done is watch them on a one-to-one call and, and
Mhm.
try and coach them through like, no, you're doing this wrong. No, you might want to do this.
I think the
And things like that. But
Yes.
I think actually doing it for them, I agree with you. I
yeah.
was actually
And the other
kind of
thing is
getting
if they start,
uncomfortable with it.
yeah, I would be uncomfortable with it. So I think your instincts are
I
right.
was.
Yes. And I think the alternative is you say, look, you start the process. And if you have any roadblocks, then here's how I provide coaching support on this, right? And they come back to you, but they're the one that's going through the process.
And I think the only other thing I can do is offer a one-to-one call if they have a question and do a share
Mhm.
screen on a Zoom and say, show me what your question is or show me what your problem is. And I can help walk you through that.
Yeah,
But you have to be the one clicking the buttons.
that's right. They have to be the one submitting the information because they are also the one that needs to be responsible for the information. So yeah, I think that's the way to go. And the upsell for you is that if they need additional support, they get that through coaching.
I was thinking too.
Yeah. Good question. Really, really important that you flesh that out in advance because I wouldn't want you to get in trouble over accidentally misstepping on that and having some liability come up. And Deborah, I hope you saw my link in the chat that yes, my resources are basically available in bundles or individual templates. I posted the link to both. The bundles are where I build a lot of value in. You can get a whole bunch that protects a very specific segment of your business. But I've also made a ton available in my individual resources side so that for the templates where people just need a consulting agreement or like Charisse just needs the JV agreement, they can still go find those. Yeah. All right, Valerie, did we answer all of your questions or did you have anything else on that?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good luck. That's such an important service right now for folks looking for work. Really, really
So
important.
many of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good job and keep it up. All right. Any
you.
other questions? Yeah. Is that Artist? You have a question? Nope. Just adjusting your monitor. Okay. Perfect. How about Araceli? Araceli, are you with us or Cian? Anybody else with any questions? Hopefully this was helpful so far. Hi there. Have you got a question, Araceli, or just saying hi? Nope, just saying hi. Good. Well, good to see you here. Yeah, Artist, did you have one?
No, not really. I just wanted to say I really appreciate what you're doing. I'm a real newbie at all levels. I have a blog. I'm a writer. I tend to just sit in my corner and write with oblivion to.
I love it.
Can
I
I
love it.
can
What
I
do
get myself into legal trouble? You know, I don't know.
It's a good question. What do you write about?
Well, in my blog, I'm writing to an audience of seniors, and I address some of the questions that people have around spiritual growth as we age,
I love
and challenges. And one of my questions is, I have a title to my blog. It's called The Reflective Pen. Do I need to trademark that, or
you could
do anything with it?
Let's take a look, and I'm just going to log in. See, this is the benefit of showing up to this call. I charge people $300 for this little service. This is just the tip of the iceberg, but
Yeah.
let me just do a quick search for you, and let's just see if anybody else is using that. And obviously, so when you normally do a search, I'm just searching the Reflective Pen as is, right? It says no test records are found. I'm going to go back, and we're going to take away the and we're going to search Reflective Pen. No test records are found. So nothing comes up as an obvious hit in USPTO under those two options. You'd want to just spend some time on Google looking, is anybody else using that phrase in a way that seems to signify it's associated with a brand, right? Associated with a business. And if the answer is no, if you do a bit of hunting and you can't find it, then the question I would have for you that might help you decide whether or not it's worth pursuing as a mark is, where do you think your blog is going? Do you plan to monetize it? Do you hope to monetize it? Do you have a big enough following that you could start a paid newsletter?
No, when I started it a couple of years ago, and I didn't even have a clue where I was going at that time, and I'm just really have identified the audience. And I have written a course that I'm hoping to get someday. I'll get that launched, right, Cian? Yeah. Someday I'll get that going, but it's small stuff, and I don't know at which point I need to start looking at doing some legal protection for it all.
Yeah. So here's my quick thoughts on using something kind of in a more personal way, not directly attached to a business right now, right? You could still get a trademark registration around the Reflective Pen, assuming there's not something else that's similar that's in the same category. And I doubt there would be, because trademarks happen, you're registered by class or category. So like a clothing company could have the phrase live your best life, and a personal coach could have the phrase live your best life, but you're not going to confuse the services, whether you're buying clothing or you're buying coaching, right? So they could coexist on the register. Now, if you're in the same class or category, you're likely going to be disqualified. So on personal use, you can obtain a registered mark and then transfer it to a business once you create a business. So I have had clients that we register for a mark under the personal name, or they previously did, on their own or with the help of another lawyer. And now we're getting their business stuff all taken care of. And so we set up their LLC, or we set up their business, and then you can do what's called an assignment and simply assign the trademark over to your business. And what that allows your business to do moving forward is claim any damages if somebody else uses it in a commercial manner, right? If you own a trademark individually, it's really hard to allege damages if you're not functioning as a business. So if a mark is owned under a business entity, under a business name, then you can allege damages when that happens.
Okay. Now, many years ago, when I was a lot younger, and I thought, I think I'd like to do something for a living. And so I set up with the bank a business name called Mayo Enterprises. So I don't really know what I chose. Probably, I don't know if it was an LLC or proprietorship.
Sole proprietor. Yeah. So you just want to double check. Is that bank account still open?
Yeah.
Okay. So you could go
And-
double check with the bank. If, where are you based, Artis?
Maine.
In Maine. You could also double check with your state Secretary of State. So you just want to Google Maine Secretary of State to see, do you have a business entity set up with the state? Now you'd likely know because there's going to be annual filings and fees that you have to pay to keep that current. So if you're like, oh, I don't
I
know,
don't
about
know.
that, it could have lapsed. I've had clients that, like, I had a client who years ago set up a business, and here she thought she was operating under a business all these years. And for the last 5 years, her business had been defunct, totally disintegrated by the state because she had not kept up on annual filings. And yet she was reporting for the last 5 years to the IRS under this business name that no longer existed, right? So it can be a little tricky, but if you're not paying annual
Okay.
filings, the answer is probably you don't have a formal business entity that is still
I haven't been
alive.
paying anything.
Yeah, so it could be that it was
Okay.
a sole proprietorship, right? And for anybody listening, a sole proprietorship is where you just have what's called like a DBA, let's say Bob Green Plumbing, right? But he didn't go to the state and actually set up an LLC or set up a corporation to house his plumbing company. It's just his personal name. It's a DBA that he uses when he does business. That's a sole proprietorship. And what that means is that from the perspective of the government, the state, any licensing agencies, the IRS, right, the court system, you and your business are one and the same. Your personal assets are exposed to any business activities that you do, right? So it's just for anybody that's really running an active business, it's generally not a good place to be. Now, if you're kind of, venturing into business and you've got some time to plan and you're not really engaging in a lot of business activity yet, then you can think about what your plan is and whether it makes sense to, for example, set up an LLC. If you plan to do, maybe your writing turns into some coaching or some consulting and it becomes a paid
Right.
service, right? I could easily
Right.
see those being related. Then you could set up a single member LLC. That's not a huge ordeal. Like in Maine, I'd be very surprised if it's more than a couple $100 filing fee. In Washington, it's like $200 to start an LLC. You have to have some documentation that goes along with it. I offer a single member LLC operating agreement through my site, which is a great option for many people that are taking a do-it-yourself kind of approach to LLC formation. And then you really want to just make sure that you keep up with your annual licensing and your annual fees to the state to keep that entity alive. But what it means is that you then take those documents to your bank and you make sure that your bank accounts are set up under the name of your business so that all the income you collect flows through your business, right?
Okay.
And it's
So would I, because every now and then I'm setting up, I'm currently in the process of setting up a shopping cart to launch a course, and they asked for my business name, and I'm never sure what that is. It's not the name of the course. Would it be the reflective
and if you
pen?
don't have a business set up, that is why it's confusing, because you don't actually have a formal entity to list there. Now you could decide, generally, if you're a sole proprietorship, you're going to be required by your state to let them know what name you are operating under. And that's usually through a local licensing. So like, what city are you in Maine?
It's a small town called Hamden, and I remember going to Hamden and getting some kind of a certificate to take to the bank to set it up there, because I had a little Etsy shop and I kind of said for that.
So it could have been a wholesale, like depending on, it might have been a tax certificate for sales tax collection. I'm guessing that's what it was, but it could be that you set up a business license, right? And that's okay. You can get a sole proprietorship license. It's just that you don't have the liability protection through a sole proprietorship that you do through other entities, right? So you could also call your, your city clerk or your town clerk and find out, was that a business license? Is it in your name individually? Did you have another DBA that you were operating under for that at Etsy shop, right? And then it's just deciding, are you going to continue as a sole proprietor, do you want to come up with kind of an official DBA that you use and making sure that that gets displayed places and put onto your paperwork, etc.? Or do you need to go to the next step of actually separating out that liability and creating an LLC or creating a legal entity? So you'll just want to check. It sounds like you may need to review some records and maybe make a few phone calls and just see kind of what the status is, figure out what it was that you had, and then go from there.
Okay.
I promise it's
Thank
not
you.
that complex. I know it sounds like a lot. It's really just sorting out, what have you had? Because the simple part with a business entity is once it's formed, you get a certificate from the state, and it usually is going to have a business identifier, like a number on there that's associated with your business. And that's what and then you can get what's called an EIN, like a federal tax employer identification number. That's the number that you use on your banking paperwork, on your city license, on that connects.
That's what I got a number of years ago, and I don't know what that would be today.
So you just want to track that down, find out. It sounds like maybe you had an EIN. You could have gotten that as a sole proprietor, right? And so you just want to find out what was that attached to, and you can contact the IRS or, go to their helpline and find out if they can help you investigate that. But I would spend a couple hours one of these days and kind of get to the bottom of that, figure out what you have, and then make a separate determination of, is that enough for where you're going? And if not, how to get some help in place to take care of the next steps.
Okay.
All right. Well, fun.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck with your writing and your course. I hope it all comes together for you.
Yeah.
Super
Thank
fun.
you.
You're welcome. Great to meet you. All right. Any other questions? Such a range of good questions today. Anything else? Sian, good to see you again. Also love your bookshelf. I'm such a fan of books. If we were down in my office, you'd see them everywhere.
It's unsplash.com, girl.
Oh, got it. Yeah. See, you weren't moving enough. I didn't see.
Yeah, I've learned that over the years. Like, okay, sit real still.
I know. I love it.
But thank you for hosting this. I soaked up all kind of good info. So
yeah, you're welcome. Well, it's great to see you all today. Of course, generally these fall on the second Monday of every month, 11 a.m. Pacific. This month was a little wacky because our spring break fell in the second week of the month. And so I had moved it to the following week, and then my email notices didn't trigger. So then we rescheduled it, and here we are. But great to see you all. Good luck this week in your business. And then hopefully we'll see you next month if you've got any additional questions.
Second Monday of May, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, second Monday of every month, 11 a.m.
Wrong name.
Yeah, that's right. Pacific time, PST. I'm West Coast.
Okay.
Deborah, you're welcome. I love it. Artists. Yes, life is a blast. Excellent. All right. Good to see you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.